I always wanted to help families, to help moms and dads realize how valuable they were in the eyes of their kids, but also kids know how extremely valuable they are and the worth that they have and that they're loved and that both have a voice and need to be able to collaborate those voices together. And so my journey to where I am today has been a long one. But as far as actually creating a business around it,
and now here is singer-songwriter, broadcaster, audio-video artist, entertainment agent, and your host. It's the master storyteller himself, James Kevin O'Connor.
Hey, 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 it's a beautiful day. Yes, a beautiful day indeed to go out west. That's where we're heading today. But before we get into that journey, I'd like you to just take your phone, if you have it, in the upper right-hand corner. You could hit one of those 3 buttons and you could forward this show to a dear friend who may really value the content in this episode. And the value is all about parenting today. It's the single most important job in the world, and it is the foundation that enables you and your kids to thrive. So many amazing parents feel lost in the different opinions of parenting that the way forward is out of focus, robbing them of their untapped potential as a parent. And then their uncertainty and confusion increases as it is passed down to the next generation. Now is the time to do things differently. We're going to meet someone who shows you exactly how to do this. She shows parents how to raise emotionally healthy and confident kids in a way that is energizing and easy. So we're taking a ride today from the Music City all the way out to Utah to hang out with Wanda Howard. Wanda, you're not nervous, are you?
no, I don't think I'm nervous.
I don't think so either. So this is awesome. Wanda Howard is my guest today, and we are having a good chat. And tell me where you are. You're somewhere in the Midwest, or no, Deep West, I guess. Are
I'm
you
in
in
Utah.
Utah?
Yeah.
You are in
Yep.
Utah. Such a beautiful state. I got a little taste of it out in January. I was out there. And
Oh,
coming back the end of April to Salt Lake City again, which was such a treat last time and had so many good adventures out there. So it must be beautiful where you live, no?
yes, it is. Well, and I live more out in the deserts, which I love the deserts of Utah, but I love the mountains. I love the Rocky Mountains. So I hope that we can move closer to them and get away from the desert a little bit. But the
Yeah.
state of Utah is beautiful.
So inspirational. It's kind of like when you're in the places like that, you feel the presence of God. At least I do, more stronger than ever because it's like, look at this. This is really something to look at. Crazy. Now, born and raised out there, or did you move from somewhere else?
Oh no, I am from all over. I never know when people want to know like where my roots are from. I'm like, I don't know what state to claim. By the time I was 15, we had moved over 20 times and I had stopped counting at that point. So, but all over the Western states. And so my husband is from Utah though. And so that's where we've kind of settled.
Wow, what kind of business was your family in that you moved so many times? Because I have cousins. There's 6 girls, and they moved similar to what you did. Like they were just in every state. Every year is a new school. So, what was it? Was it the army or what was it?
No, no, it wasn't the army. My dad was a farmer and he was an entrepreneur, had his own business and helping farmers be able to take their crops from conventional fertilizer into more natural fertilizer, I guess. So, yeah, that's what he did.
Wow, he was an early pioneer then, right?
Yep,
I
he
mean,
was.
that was radical thinking for, back then. I mean, your dad, this was probably at least 20 years ago or so, right? That was pretty radical thinking for back then. God bless him.
Yeah.
Is he still at it?
No, not that I know of. No.
Yeah. Okay. So you you sort of inherited the entrepreneurial spirit by creating this great show, and I have to commend you for uh, the parenting journey that you've become, attached to. Because I remember when my kids were really little, I was an electrical contractor way back in the day, and I sent one of my kids' teacher a note, and I said, "Thank you so much for all that you do for my third grade son," or whatever grade he was in. And it had my stamp of electrical contractor. I said, "Relax, this is not a bill." And then she ran home to her husband waving this, saying, "You see that? I do make a difference."
Oh, that's
And I
awesome.
always felt that parenting was really starting to be taken for granted. Like, as much as 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, that there's sort of been a backslide on, just let them go and do what they want, give them an iPhone, and, they'll be fine. And you've kind of like turned people's heads with your podcast to say, wake up and let's take some initiative here, and let's get educated about how valuable the parenting space is. And I just want to say how much I really appreciate you for that and value what you do. It's so incredibly important that people just like are not paying enough attention to. So can I ask you how and what possessed you to be in this lane?
Oh my, yes, this is a great question, and definitely I could go a million different ways with this answer because um, my story starts way back when I was 4 years old. And this is what I dreamt of doing as a kid. I always wanted to help families, to help moms and dads realize how valuable they were in the eyes of their kids, but also kids know how extremely valuable they are and the worth that they have and that they're loved and that both have a voice and need to be able to collaborate those voices together. And so my journey to where I am today has been a long one. But as far as actually creating a business around it, I didn't at the beginning ever have any desire to be an entrepreneur or to have anything to do with entrepreneurship. I had seen my parents go through that, and there was a lot of struggles, and that was just never something that I saw as feasible. Um, but then luckily people were put in my path, and slowly I started to see a broader, bigger vision and what was possible, and just kept going from there. And it's been an incredible journey.
Do you think this, the reason you ended up where you are, Wanda, it was something to do with your past as a child, moving so many times? It must have been really tough. I've always wanted to dig deep with my cousins about this. 6 girls who were just constantly new school every year. Tell us about that and how challenging that was for you.
Yeah, as far as moving in of itself, there was definitely things that was hard about it. Um, but I always it's interesting. There's many different like phases of life, and at one point you're a kid, and then you're a teenager, and then you're going into adulthood. So during the different phases, I definitely had different opinions on the whole moving thing. But for the most part, the moving in of itself was an adventure to me. I was excited to see, where are we going to end up now? What are we going to do next? And as long as we were together as a family, I felt like the rest either didn't matter or it shouldn't matter, is what I felt like. And but the hardest thing really was just my home environment. We weren't allowed to go and play with people. We weren't allowed. We were all homeschooled, so we weren't allowed to go outside of the home. And so that was the hardest part, is just we already moved so much, and so we were isolated in that way of just being able to make connections with other people. But also it was compacted by it was very like bad to try and make connections with other people. And so that, yes, my past and where I've come from is a huge factor into why I want to help parents, because I saw my parents, they were doing everything that they could and sacrificing everything for us kids, and they were miserable, and us
Yeah.
kids were miserable. And so I saw that and I thought, especially when I became a mom, it hit me even harder. Like, I can't do what they did. I don't want to sacrifice everything. Like, I already wished that I was just done on this earth. I did not want to be here anymore. And so I was like, I can't live that way. How do we do this different? How do we do this better? How do we not go down the same road where we're sacrificing ourselves, where we're just nothing's left of us? And so, yes, there's a huge part of why I do what I do is seeing two amazing people come together and losing their own personal drive and compassion and ability in life to have human connection because of parenting. And I didn't want that to happen to me or my kids. And I want to help other people not fall down those same cycles too.
You bring up an interesting observation that I just, came across. You mentioned that you appreciated the adventure in the moving, which was good because obviously your heart was open to that. And how many children are you from? Like, how many were in your family?
Yeah, there's
Like,
9
so,
in my family.
oh my goodness. So we got some stories together. I grew up in 7, 6 boys and 1 girl. Everybody's a year and a half apart. 3-bedroom house, 1 bathroom. You can imagine the sardines, in the early humble days.
Uh-huh.
And I remember we're sitting around, one of the holidays or something, and one of my uncles says to my father, "Hey, Andy, I understand you're thinking about moving." And my father was just starting to get some traction. He goes, "Yeah, I think I'm going to go west, Bill." And I'm like, "Yes, I'm going to Salt Lake City, Colorado, or whatever." He goes, "Florham Park." "You mean from West Orange, New Jersey, 25 minutes west to Florham Park?" I was ready to put my head in the oven. I'm like, all my dreams were just shattered. I thought I was going to be living where you're living. But, the big family thing. And I want to circle back to what you said, all of these things that left an indelible mark in your mind kind of transformed you and inspired you to do the things you're doing now. And the one interesting thing you just mentioned before was, about the kids having a say. And, when we were kids, we were a number. We weren't you weren't treated as people. You were treated as, we're in the Marines and you're number 6 or you're number 2 or whatever you are. And you'll march to my drum and that's it. And you don't question anything I say. And you've identified that kids have this paradigm, this very delicate paradigm that needs to be aligned now because your personality's developed when you're 7 years old. It's like, why not get them now and marry that up with the adult, right? So how did you come up with this? This is awesome.
Yeah, and I love that you caught on to that because it is true that our kids, like, I believe that God did not send kids to us to say, okay, now you are the adult that should know all the answers and know exactly everything that they need. I think that he handpicked these amazing spirits for us because he knew that they had value we needed, that he knew that they had the kind of friendship that we needed and the insights that we needed to better our lives, and that we had the qualities that our kids need to fully unlock their own talents, but that it wasn't ever meant to be this, you are the parent and you have to create the perfect human, but they're already perfect. And so how do we just coexist together in inspiring ways? And so as far as like your question of how did I come up with this, it was really through my own experiences, through so many principles and things that just praying and things that God helped me realize too in my own life, that the more as a kid, I like you said, we were a number. It was very much of like, I was part of the 9 kids. That was my identity. I was 9, one of the 9. And so with all of the moving, I remember a lady talking to me and she was like, it must be so fun to go on all these adventures and to move everywhere. And I was like, yeah, it is. And then she asked, and I'm sure that there's hard points. And I'm like, yeah, there can be. And then she was like, but I'm sure that your parents involve you in that decision too. I'm sure that they want, like, they make sure that you're comfortable with that move and that they want your input on that. And that was like this big moment. I was probably like, I don't know, 7. And that was this big moment for me when she said that, because I was like, I don't think they've ever done that. I don't remember a time that they've ever done
That
that.
that was a head scratching moment. Like, what? I never even. Yeah, right. It was just pack them in the station wagon, get them all. You got them all in. We forgot Brian again. He's over on the curb.
So after she said that, though, I actually went and asked my parents, and because I thought, well, maybe they've tried to, and I just haven't noticed. Maybe they think they are, and that's their intention, and I just haven't realized that I have input in this. So I went and asked my dad, and his answer was very straightforward. And he was like, nope, it is not up to you kids. We do not care if you want to or not. We are the breadwinners. We are the ones that are in charge of the family. And if God is going to have us move somewhere, then we're going to move somewhere. And it doesn't matter what you guys say. And that was just kind of this like throttle back of like, oh, like it's okay, that's how it is. But I watched that pattern like consistently grow and consistently get more and more and more. And so there was this paradigm shift when I became a mom, because at first I was very much, I had come to the point where I was like, okay, whatever my parents want, I will just do whatever they say. They obviously know better than me. They obviously have my best interest at heart. I will just hand everything of my own will over to them. And then when I became a mom, I was already like, making decisions was the most stressful thing for me ever, because I couldn't make decisions. I had to say, is this okay, mom and dad? Is this right, mom and dad? Like, is this the way to do this? Like, is this how you want me to do this? And so when I became a mom, that was the paradigm shift of, I have to know how to do everything. I don't know how to do anything. So, okay, call up mom and dad. What do you guys say? But then me and my husband trying to collaborate, and I realized like, I didn't know how to rely on my husband, because I needed to rely on my parents. From what I had learned, that was the correct way to do things. And so it just helped me see so much more of the value that I didn't want my kids to feel that way. I didn't want them to feel like they couldn't make a decision without me. I wanted them to know like how to use their very capable deduction, reasoning, brain, like intelligence, and make their own decisions. And if they make a wrong one, then they're just better educated, and that's not a crime. And so that was a huge thing for me, of realizing the power in, if we allow our kids to make their own choices now while they're at home, one, we benefit because we don't have to make all the choices. We learn from what they do, but also we get to be there for them and show them that we're compassionate and loving towards their own experiences. But then when they become an adult, they're able to really thrive, because they don't have to go through that paradigm shift of, how the heck am I supposed to make any decisions when the rule has always been somebody else makes them for me. They're the adult, they're the smart one. So yeah.
When you now you're a coach, right? And
Yes.
you coach families predominantly. Is that correct? Or is you do one-on-one coaching? How's your coaching work?
Yeah, I predominantly do one-on-one coaching with parents, but I love
Right.
to get to know their kids as well. So I love it when their kids have questions and to help them, and that's lots of fun too.
So was it a surprise to you when you first started doing this? Did you find that there was a big disconnect between what you just described, of a relationship with a parent and a child? I would suspect that there's a big gap in the style of parenting. I'm trying to be polite and tactful here, because we grew up with brute force and physical annihilation, like when it came out of nowhere. And going back to the point I'm trying to uncover here is the value of a child is. I always, like, when I became a father, I just took that so seriously. I said, I'm like responsible for helping shape this life. And I can think of no greater responsibility than that. And so for you to come in and start helping people with that process who are many are unaware. Like sometimes the mother's aloof, or sometimes the father's like, well, it's your job and I just go make the money. So there's all these different dynamics that people have in their head about parenting and what it should be. So were you like kind of shocked when you first looked at the kind of relationships that were going on
Yes.
between parent and child?
Yes.
Because I see it all the time. I'm like, what's going on? There should be a law against having kids. You have to take a test because some of these people are nuts with their kids, you know? And
Yeah.
it just makes me crazy when I see this going on, you know? So what was the biggest like shock when you first started doing this?
Honestly, so in my own journey, I kind of just thought that parents knew what they were doing. I just figured like when you become a parent, you know what your kids need, you know the decisions to make for them. Like I just figured that there was something like that. And I didn't know why or how, but after having my first child and realizing there's no guidebook, there's no like way for parents to actually know those things. Um, then
How
I
many children
started,
do you have?
I have 4 kids and
All right. All
um
boys, girls,
no,
both?
3 girls and 1 boy.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Great.
And so yeah, after getting my first daughter though, I realized like there were parents and families living a life and having relationships that I wanted. So I started asking them, like, how did you do that? What did you do? And every single one of them was like, I don't know. We just live and it's fine. And we just do our best and cross our fingers and hope it works out. And that was the biggest dumbfounder to me. Like I thought for sure the ones that had it figured out, that had good relationships, that things were working well, that they knew how they got there. But they were still just as stressed as my parents were, who they knew things were spinning out of control. And so I thought that was sad to me because I didn't want to feel that anxious worry, guilt, and frustration always. Um, so I started like doing research. I started pinning down like, okay, what is this family doing and how does it relate over here and what are they doing? And it came to the point where like every single family that has thriving relationships actually have the same founding principles in them. And as soon as I started using those principles in my life, the decisions and how to move forward became so easy and it became so rhythmic and it became fun, it became energizing. And very, very cool too, is that they're all the same principles that connect in every area of our life. So any kind of relationship, we kind of like pull parenting relationships away from all other relationships, but it's not. It's just the same as any other relationship. And so if the principles work in one relationship, they're going to work here too. But it goes beyond that, that as I started business, they're all the same principles that you need to be able to excel in business and in sports and in hobbies. Like they're the same founding principles to be able to feel that fulfillment and that success and that drive. And so before, parenting used to feel very uneasy, unsure, just cross my fingers, hope that I'm doing just like everybody else was saying. But now there's a very succinct line forward that life is fulfilling, that going and being with my kids doesn't make me feel like, okay, now I've got to go recover and with self-care, but that it is part of my self-care. It is rejuvenating to me. It is exciting to me. And it just gets my blood going even more, which that was the life that I wanted. That was what I envisioned, but I didn't know how to do it before because of everybody was treating parenting like it had to be done a certain way. And that was another thing. I started going to like parenting experts and all of these different gurus that were saying this is the way to parent. But the things that they were saying were only adding to my anxiety and my depression and my just like frustration with who I was. And they were saying good things, saying things like do activities with your kids, go on walks with your kids, get down on their level when you're talking to them. Like they were saying all of these tools, techniques, tactics, these things that are good, but they were making me feel more overwhelmed and more pushed down, and more when there was like a disciplinary situation or a hard situation, I would just sit there and buffer and be like, how do I do this again? What are the steps that they said to do? How do I handle this situation? What am I supposed to
So
be doing?
why was that made you so uncomfortable? What was it about all of that information coming at you?
Yeah, the best way to describe this is right now, from my experience and what I've seen, is all the parenting experts and gurus, everybody that I've come in contact with so far, they're focusing on how to decorate the home, basically. They're giving you the paint and the fun things to put on your shelves and the books and all of the fun kitchen tools and the flooring you should have. All of these things are great and they're helpful to make a beautiful home. But if you haven't even built the home yet, they're just going to be overwhelming. They're just piling up and it's not useful and you're tripping over everything. And so what I do and what I help people do is understand their unique values, their unique talents and abilities, their hidden superpowers as parents, along with the hidden superpowers of their kids, so that they can create that blueprint and that home that's unique to them, their own unique parenting style, so to speak. And then they can go and get all of the wallpapers and paint colors and everything that they want, all the tips and tricks and tactics to help amplify their home and their experience here with their family. But before you do and worry about any of that, start like solidifying your foundation and who you are and what things you have that to bring to the table, instead of trying to copy what everybody else is doing, because that doesn't work. They're not you. So that's the biggest difference.
So when you say build the home, you're talking about metaphorically the home being us, the relationships, not the physical structure.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So many people kind of miss, and I think it goes back to little people are not recognized as being
people.
unique. Yeah, unique people who have personalities and feelings, and they get hurt, and they need to be loved, and they need to be recognized and appreciated, for just who they are, yeah. And not just thrown into a camp, and do as I say and not as I do.
Well, can I ask you? Can
Yeah.
I ask you a question with that?
Sure.
So what would you say, who is the most qualified person to help you and to know what you need to be able to do in your business?
The most qualified person to help me in my business? God, really.
God?
It's like the Holy Spirit. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I mean, the Holy Spirit's runs all my interviews. I never do scripted questions. I never have. And it's like, all the neat little surprises, and the FedEx man comes charging in, or the dog breaks through the window, or whatever happens. It's all good stuff. I would say, yeah, that's what I lean on.
Awesome.
That's my thing.
I love that answer. So who would you say next is the most in control and most knowing in your business and in your life?
Myself. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, you have to tap in, I think, and I think if you're confused about it, I think you just need to be quiet and and just it'll come to you. You can roll it over in your mind. But I used to ask too many people for advice.
Yeah.
And it was like, what I learned later in life was, damn, I knew the right answer. And what am I doing leaning on somebody else? I instinctively knew what was right. And I didn't follow it because I didn't trust myself.
Yeah.
Or I had this beaten into me that, things from my past or whatever, that you're not worthy, you're not good enough, all the tapes we play, throughout our life. But once you get wise to it, and you're helping that effort by doing what you're doing to take these precious young minds and allow them to recognize their value and to flex their muscles, their emotional and their spiritual muscles a little bit at a young age. It's just a really, really great thing.
Well, thank you. And one other question, though, if I can.
Yeah.
I want to just ask you, who would you say is the most qualified person in a kid's life to help them know, like, what's best for them and to know what they need?
It's you. I hate to say it's the parents, but it usually is. It could be a teacher. I mean, a lot of us have that one special teacher that like recognized some little thing. I'll give you a case in point. I had this, he was a phys ed teacher and he was a coach. I think he's a wrestling coach. And in health class, I remember him saying, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you're sweeping the floors at the hamburger place or whatever you do in your profession, but just be the best that you can possibly be. And that stayed with me my whole life. I always tried to excel at everything I did. So sometimes it's a little something like that that just sticks to you, you know?
Well, and this I love that story, and I love the like awareness of what adults can do in the kid's life. But this is actually something that is like the biggest passion of mine, and that I'm like trying so hard to help people see, is if we are truly the like governor of our own life, if we are truly the one that's most capable in knowing what we need, then we need to be able to believe that for others. And so often, me included, used to believe that as a parent, as a mom, I am the most qualified to know what my kids need. But that's not true. My kids know what they need. They are the ones with their passion and their interests and desires and who they are. My job is just like your teacher, and like that beautiful story, is to help inspire them to dig deep into that and to help them see that they have what it takes to lead their own lives.
Did you notice what happened there? That you just actually uncovered my past, because I would never think that about myself. Especially like rewinding in the past, you weren't allowed to have those thoughts. You were like, you had them beat out of you or whatever.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah. Let's talk about, as we're winding down here, Wanda, and again, it's the podcast is called Successful Parents, everybody. You got to check it out, because I have, and it's really amazing. The people you bring on and the subjects you guys discuss about really digging deep into the roots of how we can have this preservation of these young minds and emotions and spirits out there. What can you leave everybody with as far as best advice for somebody who's been thinking about developing a better relationship with their kids and is just not really sure, what can I do to make this work better? There's too much stress, there's too much confusion, whatever it is. What's the best tip that you could give them?
Yes, this is such a good question. So the very first thing that I would say is create a dream. Create what you're working towards. This is the hardest thing, mostly because nobody's doing it. But just like in business, we thrive when we have tangible things in front of us and we know what we're working towards. So in business, we get very clear on our mission statements and what our dreams are, our goals are, and what marks we need to make. But in the family, we just have this vague idea of, it'd be nice if everybody has good feelings. And then when somebody doesn't have a good feeling, we take that as a mark of, oh no, we're not making our goal. So get very, very clear on what you're actually trying to create, because you're never going to be able to get there if you don't know what you're even going towards. So get clear on, at what ages do you want to be experiencing different things, and how do you want your family to interact when there's a hard thing, and how do you want your kids to be able to feel when they're hurt, and who do you want them to come to, and what adventures do you want to go on, and just get very, very clear on what you want life to look like 10 years down the road, 3 years down the road, a year down the road. And you will start to see opportunities to bring that into your life right now.
That is precious. That is really gold. Best place for people to connect to Wanda. Where do we go, Wanda Howard?
Go to my website, wandahoward.com. That's the best place to get started. I have like a free blueprint there to help you kind of create that mission statement, your own dream and moving forward. But also come to my podcast, just like you said earlier, Successful Parents. I'm interviewing amazing parents there all the time with great traditions of their own that you can glean from.
Awesome. Wanda, this was wonderful. I really appreciate you coming on Podcasting Your Global Career today. And thank you saved me. Wanda actually took over as the host because I had crazy internet problems, but we won't go into that. And it was very gracious of you. And I want to wish all of God's blessings on you, your family, your children, and your career moving forward.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
Hey, if you guys like what's going on here, please leave a great review in the Apple Podcasts. I've left a simple review process in the show notes, and we'd really appreciate it. And also, don't be shy. Forward this to your best friend because you know they need it. Hey, if you need some coaching, hit up the link in the show notes. It's calendly.com/Dharmic. And you can take a little chance with me, and I'll get you on your way. That's a wrap for me today. I'm your host, James Kevin O'Connor. So until the next time when we meet again, I'll either see you on the socials or I'll see you from the stage. Ride on, baby, won't you take a ride with me? Ride on, we can untangle all the mystery. If wishes were windows, I'd open one and find that freedom is really a simple state of mind. So ride on, baby, won't you take a ride with me? Ride on, we can untangle all the mystery. Ride on, baby, you and I can find the key. Ride on, we can unlock each other's destiny. I taste the breeze of freedom, it's tingling on my tongue. You and I out on the road will stay each other's destiny. I'll take you places that you've never seen. I'll take you places that you never dreamed. I'll take you places that were pictures in your mind. I'll take you places beyond the reach of time. So